Hi, I'm Ben Meyer.
And I'm Rob Wright.
And recently, the president of Crytek, Shvat Yerli, said in an interview with PC Play, well, let me actually just read you something from it. The translation's a little bit rough, so it isn't my reading. We are suffering currently from the huge piracy that is encompassing Crysis. To the degree PC gamers that pirate games inherently destroy the platform. Similar games on console sell factors of 4 to 5 more. It was a big lesson for us, and I believe we won't have PC exclusives as we did with Crysis in the future. We are going to support PC, but not exclusive anymore. So that's a pretty
bombshell.
That's a pretty big bombshell. It was done, on record. This wasn't in a forum. So he was really trying to make a statement here.
And he did.
Do you, knowing what we know about the Crysis sales, do you buy this? Do you buy this argument?
I do. I obviously would like to see some numbers. That's kind of the thing that I think would help embolden this type of argument in the eyes of people that do pirate games, because they're always like, where are the numbers? Where are the numbers? Eventually, I do think we'll have somebody come around and do an exhaustive investigation into how many pirated copies of a certain game are out there. But, I mean, let's just look at what he's saying. I mean, he says in no uncertain terms, PC gaming piracy is the core problem for this platform.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a mistranslation. Like, he comes out and says it, and this is the reason we're not doing, exclusive anymore for the PC. And I think you have to look at this and kind of take him at his word and say, okay, it must be a big problem. If a company like Crytek is actually going to move away from the PC and embrace the consoles, you got to take this seriously. And I think if you do look at the numbers, Crysis, it sold 1 million copies worldwide, I think, according to EA recently. They said a couple months ago during their Q3 earnings call. Not bad. But it only sold 87,000 in the first few weeks that it was on sale here in the U.S. It had a very underwhelming launch, a disappointing launch. Let's call it what it is. I think a lot of people were expecting this game to be a blockbuster, maybe on the level of Half-Life 2, and it didn't even outsell World of Warcraft, the original.
Yeah.
So I do think you have to take this seriously and take him at his word. And I'm always of the mind, you know me.
Yeah.
I like to take the developer and the publisher at their word over the word of somebody who's pirating games online who says it's not that big of a problem.
Yeah, and there's always the Crysis for, and it was a risk for Yerli because on the forums people are calling him a liar, and there isn't data to back it up. Crysis has publicly, it's sold 1 million copies worldwide, so people are going to be like, really, you expect it to sell 4 to 5 times as much like Halo 3 or something, which is just not realistic.
No, it's not realistic.
It kind of weakens the argument a bit. I think another factor that might have played a part is the fact that it was so hyped as this the next big PC game and the savior of PC gaming. Yeah. And the results were it was a good game but not great. I mean, do you think that played a part?
Well, yeah, you know my opinion. Like I actually, I don't know if I should say this publicly, I actually liked Halo 3 better than Crysis, and I may get slaughtered for that, but that's my own opinion. I liked Crysis. I did not think it was a great game, though. I was expecting more. I thought it had a kind of a downer ending. I didn't like the spaceship. Whatever. I mean, I could go on all the reasons that of what I thought of the game. But I do think there's probably a certain segment of the PC gaming population. It got good reviews. It got very good reviews. Mm-hmm. But I think there is a certain segment of the PC gaming population out there that expected more of this game, and like me, was disappointed when it came out. And did that have an effect on sales? I'm sure it had a small effect.
Well, if you talk about word of mouth, marketing, and there's that kind of disappointment at the beginning. People are like, maybe I should just download it first and play it to see if it's good enough to pay for it.
If a game like Crysis with that much hype and that much buzz and good reviews and good word of mouth, I mean, I found it a little disappointing, but I'd still give it an 8. I mean, I'd still give it a good score. A game like that can't be bought instead of pirated. If people are still going to pirate it because they think it sucks or they're claiming it sucks, then that kind of shows you what type of environment that Crytek has to deal with out there.
Well, another thing that Crytek had to deal with that was, I wouldn't say is really totally their fault, is they built this game for the next generation of hardware, and it didn't quite live up to what actual systems people had at the time. And so, I mean, that for me, that's the most legitimate argument to pirate the game, if there was any, is does my system actually play this at frames that I can handle?
Honestly, that is a great point, and it's probably the biggest factor here, because I think what probably happened with this game is that it took a lot of hardware to run. And everyone knows that now. The hardware requirements were really tough, and if you wanted to run the game optimally, you had to have a beast of a system. And I think what happened was it probably scared a lot of legitimate, users from buying it in the store. And I think it probably led a lot of PC gamers to say, you know what, I'm going to go on a torrent, I'm going to download it, I'm going to try it out, make sure it runs on my system. But now here's the problem. You know my opinion on this. If you're going to go out to a torrent and download the game and get it for free and find out it runs on your system, even if it runs on your system, and even if you like the game, to me, I think only a vast minority of people are actually going to discover those things and actually go out and buy a copy, like a legit copy.
Yeah.
I think most people that pirate the game to find out if it runs on their system are not going to end up buying it. And they'll probably try to convince themselves it's because the game's quality is not that good or whatever. And that's disappointing, because it's a double-edged sword for Crytek. They made a game that, to me, it epitomizes PC gaming. They were pushing the limits. And you can blame them, or you can blame the hardware manufacturers or whoever for the problems that the game had running on current hardware. The fact of the matter is that's what PC gaming is about, like making a game that's actually going to push the limits.
Sure.
And it's going to be cutting.
Well, there's another potential culprit, and it's kind of alluded to later in that interview, and that's the Games for Windows Association. They didn't really get any support from them, or not as much as they expected. Yearly was kind of glossed over it a bit, but you could tell he was very disappointed about that.
Yeah.
And could that have also played a part in reducing at very least the exposure, but also getting the hardware and the developers on the same page?
Yeah, and honestly, I think that he probably has a legitimate concern. I think that's probably one of the reasons that there's so many of these big companies that got together to make the PC Gaming Alliance to try to remedy these things, to have like a unified body that is promoting these games and making sure that they get what they need, the developers get what they need to make these games work right and are properly supported for the PC. So.
Well, but is this, I guess, Rob, the last thing we wanted to touch on was, is this really the future? I mean, this Crytek's very, well-respected PC publisher. Is this going to have ripple effects? Can you make a shooter PC exclusive anymore?
Well, I wonder about that. I mean, obviously, the PC platform is going to be the home to games like MMOs and RTSs.
Yeah, of course.
Games that work on the PC better than they do on the consoles. But you got to look at shooters now and wonder, they're doing monster business. Even bad shooters are doing monster business on the consoles. And I'm sure Crytek and Yearly are looking at this and being like, man, we missed an opportunity here. We could have made a game that wasn't as intensive, but we could have released it multi-platform and made more money and still had a hit game. And I sympathize with that. And to me, this is a sad day. And I don't want to understate the importance of this, the statement that he's made. I mean, this is, like I said, this is a game that epitomizes PC gaming. It's supposed to be cutting edge. It's supposed to be, the next generation. And they release it for the PC only. No consoles, no ports, no dumbing down, and they look at the situation now and they're like, this is how we're rewarded. It's being pirated so much that we're going to have to change our business. This is a business-changing decision that he's announcing now. Yeah. And to me, it's a sad day, and I wonder if we are going to see any more PC game exclusives for shooters when you know that you can. Well,
the real issue for me is if you're trying to develop a cutting edge game, but going in, you're developing it simultaneously for the console, or worse yet, you're doing console first and then porting it to the PC. Crysis doesn't exist. You can't do Crysis. He said it's impossible to port Crysis to next-gen console. It just can't happen.
Yeah.
Which just is basically saying that Crysis wouldn't exist in his new world, essentially.
Yeah, basically. And like I said, it's a sad day. And I hope that, for a respected developer like Crytek and a guy like Yearly coming out and finally saying this, I do hope it brings this issue to light. And I hope people take it more seriously than just automatically assuming that this guy is lying because he wants to make more money. And, we'll see if that happens.
It's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
But that's all the time we have for this week. I'm Ben Meyer.
And I'm Rob Wright.
And we'll see you again next time. Oh, man, I just lost what I was going to say. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
And that's why we're called Second Take.
I had it so.
The truth? I am Iron Man.